In fact, we will be straight away heading into a very interesting panel discussion to kickstart our last session of the day. And of course, this session also includes the Golden Dealership Awards. We will finish them off. And the big one that you've all been waiting for since morning, Dealer Satisfaction Awards, are also lined up in this last session of the day. So if you can help us restart our program by being present inside the hall, it will be really, really helpful. Ladies and gentlemen, please, can I request you to come back inside the hall? Join us inside the hall with your tea, coffee, and refreshments. You can maybe finish it here while seated. If you can hear this bell ringing around you, it's your indication that we are completely running out of time and we need to restart our program with our evening schedule. Also, in this evening session, we will be starting straight away with our panel discussion. So if you are one of the panelists, I also request you to please be ready. I will be shortly announcing the names and then we can have you all on the stage. The seats are ready. And it's just a matter of your cooperation before we get started with our evening session. Can you please start taking your seats? Gentlemen at the back, please be seated, please be comfortable with your tea, coffee. So let's get ready for our second panel discussion of the day, which is once again based on Dealers Satisfaction Study 2023. And in this session, we will discuss the strengths and opportunities in passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles. Earlier, we had a discussion on two-wheelers and three-wheelers. Now, in our second panel of the day, which is once again based on DSS 2023, our discussion will revolve around the strengths and opportunities in passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles. Our moderator for this session will be Mr. Hormazd Sorabjee, editor, Autocar India. Thank you, Mr. Sorabjee. And our panelists for this discussion will be Mr. Amandeep Singh, President, LCV International Operations Defense Power Solution Business, Ashok, Leyland. Gentlemen, can I request you to please take your seats? We are starting with our second panel discussion. We will also have Mr. H.O. Suri, MD and CEO, IFFCO Tokyo General Insurance Corporation Limited. Mr. Hardeep Singh Brar, Vice President and Head of Marketing and Sales, Kia Motors India Private Limited. Mr. Nalinikanth, Gollagunta, CEO, Automotive Division of Mahindra Group. Mr. Rajesh Kaul, Vice President, Tata Motors Limited, CVBU. Mr. Tarun Garg, Chief Operating Officer, Hyundai Motor India Limited. Mr. Sachin Shah, Director, Sutaria Auto Center. Welcome all of you. Please take your seats. And before we start with our panel discussion, once again, it's a request to all of you to please be seated. so that we can start on time. It promises to be an engaging session that is starting with a very interesting panel discussion that I'm sure is of interest to all of you. Are we missing someone? Great. All our panelists are also here. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Sorabjee to take it forward. Please help him with the mic. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, FADA, for having me moderate this session. I think it's going to be an interesting session, clearly looking at dealer OEM relationships. There have been good times post-COVID, been quite rosy. So when times are good, everyone's happy on both sides. Clearly, but I think there's a lot to discuss across the board, across sectors. So I think first let me just introduce the panel from my left. We've got Sachin Shah, Director of Sutaria Auto Center. We also have Mr. Amandeep Singh, who's the President of LCV International Operations Defense Power Solutions of Ashok Leyland. Tarun Garg, Chief Operating Officer of Hyundai Motor India. We've got Nalinikanth Gollagunta, just Nal as we know him, the CEO of the Automotive Division of the Mahindra Group. We also have Rajesh Kaul, Vice President Tata Motors of the Commercial Vehicle Business, so CV is represented here. And again on the PV side, we have Hardeep Brar, who's the Vice President and Head of Marketing and Sales of Kia Motors. And representing the insurance sector, we have Mr. Suri, who's the MD and CEO of IFFCO TOKIO General Insurance. Thanks, gentlemen. And, you know, I just thought start off with maybe just some opening remarks on generally what the outlook is. I think maybe just going back a bit forward. Clearly, we've had some good times. Clearly, you know, I think coming out of COVID, auto sector has performed much better than a lot of people thought. It's been a nice pull in the market. I think a nice tension in the pipeline, which just keeps both sides quite happy. Not too much push, you know, more of a pull. Supply chain issues they've kind of eased off. I'd like to start with the passenger vehicle sector, and maybe Tarun, hand it to you. You know, just to give an overview, I mean, the topic is, you know, let's say challenges, opportunities, looking forward. But I think it's important to just reflect back on what has been an extraordinary couple of years. And, you know, looking forward, now a true test of the relationships might come back again to how it was.
Great, thank you, Hormazd. Yes, you're right. And frankly speaking, I have been in the industry now for 30 years. And I would say that the last 3 years, of course, COVID had so many negatives, but a huge positive which came out was that everybody realizes the importance of being efficient. You know, so that takes precedence over everything else, that you have to be really efficient. You have to keep your costs in check. You must be continually scanning the environment and look for opportunities. But the bottom line is that bottom line is important. So I think that realization definitely came in. You mentioned that we have had some very good times. Now, what is important? What is important now that supply issues are almost over, pent-up demand is almost over? I think the good thing is the fresh demand continues to be strong. So despite all these challenges which we hear, whether it is the recession or the global economic outlook coming down, but India still remains quite a bright spot, and we can see that the fresh demand is quite good. But the important thing here is that we do not unlearn the learnings of the last 2 years. You know, we should know that why we did well was that we were able to really balance out the demand and supply very well. We need to really go back to those basics of strong forecasting and making sure that we are able to spot not only the opportunities, but spot the difficulties as well much earlier than the others. And if I talk about me, or if I talk about Hyundai, I think that is the very critical factor, that you do not allow this stock level to really go back to pre-COVID or very, very high levels. You make sure that you are able to take tough decisions. From a dealer end, I think what is important is that you don't think that last 2 years is what is going to be the be-all and end-all, and this is going to be the new way of life. No. I think those 7 days of stock with the 6 months of waiting, those things are over. So you need to embrace this new reality and see that what is the right level of stock? What is the most optimum level of stock? How do I go back to those times when I was encouraging my team to really milk the market, to really look at opportunities, to really look at the basics of how to convert inquiry into a retail? Because many of us have gone into a kind of a slumber and a comfort zone that things will happen on their own. So I think it's all about taking those good learnings of the last 2 years, as well as, accepting the new reality and then taking this balanced approach forward. And of course, like you mentioned, the real test of the relationship between the OEM and dealer is now. I think last 3 months have been very testing, and now we will know. Because in good times, everybody says everything is very good, everything is very rosy, he's my brother and he's my mentor, and etc., etc. But now we will know that, yes, what is the real stuff, and how do we take it forward from here? Yeah.
Thanks very much, Tarun, for those opening remarks. I'd like to turn to Hardeep. I think, a couple of things don't unlearn what we've learned in these tough times. I think Tarun was really focusing on how critical it is to keep inventory tight. That is really, so I just wanted your thoughts as well. Anything you wanted to add to what Tarun said?
Yeah, so I think Tarun summed it up quite well. A few things from my side, and I'll get into, the micro level points. When we look at the current situation, suddenly the attrition level after the last 3-4 months, the attrition levels have suddenly gone down to the pre-COVID levels. I've always seen 25% pre-COVID, and suddenly I'm seeing, a lot of attrition, and it has been across the industry. And, there is an issue in terms of skill levels. We don't have, a school which is churning out a lot of people, and it is very difficult to hire manpower, and that is becoming a big challenge. Stocks, yes, stocks have been much higher than probably what it was. Earlier, we all worked on 7 to 12 days inventory. It is inching close to 30, or in some cases more than 35 days. So that is becoming a big challenge. So I think somewhere during the last 2 years, we forgot how do we really sell. And I'm part of a lot of social media groups, and I find a lot of consumers complaining in terms of overcharging, in terms of insurance, accessories, extended warranty, my convenience packages, etc. So I think somewhere we forgot, how do we really take care of the consumers? And I think we slowly need to get back to that, because if the consumers are not happy, they will not come back to us. So this is broadly, where we are. Even in terms of ROS, I think the last couple of years have been phenomenal. We have never seen these kind of ROS at 3 to 4%, and suddenly with the increasing stocks, they are dipping to about 3 to 4%. There is stress on certain models. There's a bit of discounting. You are not charging the full insurance margin. They're coming to about 2.5 to 3%. But these are still much higher than the pre-COVID times. I think pre-COVID times, 1 to 1.5% of ROS was phenomenal. Right? But now our benchmarks have changed over the last couple of years. Now 3 to 4% is a new norm, but that is not going to stay. It is, I think anything above 2% is also a very decent margin, because automotive is a high turnover industry. So I think somewhere we need to create a balance between the ROS and the customer satisfaction, which I feel is somewhere is missing, and also taking care of the people and making sure the attrition levels are taken care of. And I think this is going to be the challenge going forward as well, because the volumes are increasing. I think beginning of the year, we were all skeptical whether there is going to be a growth this year. I think there has been, frankly, I was looking at 5%, but the way things are going, looks like it is going to be 8 to 9% growth by end of this year. And even the future looks positive. I think fundamentals in India are great. So that as the volumes grow, and with the EVs coming in, the requirement of manpower is going to go up. So it's how do we create those pipeline for future, and how do we retain our people going to create the differential between people who are successful and who are not successful. So these are some of the few points probably which I would like to add on to what Tarun said.
Thanks, Hardeep. Nal, just turning to you, I'm sure you would echo what it's been really good times for Mahindra, seeing the numbers going up, really a big pull in the market. But as Hardeep said, a great ROS. Customer satisfaction can become an issue in this sort of a situation where really it has become a seller's market in that sense. So just wanted your also opening remarks on the current status.
Thank you, Hormazd. I'm going to step back and probably paint a little bit of a more long-term picture, if I may.
Sure.
And just a couple of startling facts for all of us. And this is one of the reasons you see us talking about the new Mahindra. You've heard Rajesh talk about it quite a bit as well. The reality of the matter is the largest or one of the largest selling car models in the world today is sold entirely online. And it's a car without an ICE engine at the end of the day. It's a very new world we're heading towards to that extent. It may take some time for it to happen, but it'll eventually come here to that extent, right? So that's the world we all need to get ready to, and I think these are all important points the panelists have made, but I do think that we need to have a little bit of an eye on the horizon on what's coming down the pipeline for us, right? The second piece is the customers. You talked about customer satisfaction. 2/3 of the customers, and the numbers may vary a little bit here and there, but 2/3 of the car owners and car purchasers today in India are under the age of 30. They have a very different expectation of the kind of experience they want while they choose a car, while they purchase a car, while the car is handed over to them, and how they're going to experience the car over a period of time, right? So it comes down to how we all, both the OEM as well as the dealers, have to completely rewire ourselves in serving that customer. And that's what the critical focus for us has been over the last year or so. You see some of that in the vehicles we sell. There's 10 times more software, 10 times more semiconductor content in it. It's only going to increase from here, right? But it also means there's a lot to be done from a dealer side, from a service support side, for which, frankly, we don't have the skills or the capacity today. So I think that's where the focus should be going forward. The regular problems we have, we'll continue to solve for it. I mean, this is where we partner with dealers. We have dealers who are 60 years, 70 years with us. We'll work very closely to solve those problems, but really, we got to start to see what the trends are in the next 5-7 year horizon.
No, thanks, Nal. I think we'll be coming to that. The people issue, this is a very people-intensive business. Attrition rates are high. Getting the right talent is important. And I think that's really worthy of a whole round of discussions on this. But again, just opening remarks again, Mr. Kaul, CV side. I guess you've not had it as good as the PV guys, but I think it's been pretty good. I mean, it's looking much brighter than what it could have been.
Thank you, Hormazd. So, quick reflection, because you want a broad outlook and how is it going. PV, yes, the numbers and the quantum of growth is phenomenal. But I'll talk about commercial vehicles and specific largely to the big trucks. Okay, COVID, a bad time. But just before COVID, India moved from BS4 to BS6 and diesel ICE vehicles, commercial vehicles, it's a big thing because emissions at the tailgate means a lot more change, right? So we skipped BS5. And did we see enough traction in 1920 to leverage BS6 advantage? Answer is no, because our peak was 2019-20, okay? So what happened? We picked up very fast from, I would say, Q4 2021. And the momentum for last 8 quarters is 7 is now really robust. And there are strong tailwinds which are helping us, coupled with government spending on infrastructure, and that happens typically around election times, and that's a benefit to us. So what additional is happening? So when I said BS4 to BS6, right? So there's a lot more on the product side. A mechanical, half mechanical at BS4 has moved totally to electronics. So trucks, electronics, therefore you would know what it means in terms of upgrading the skills for mechanics, drivers, and everybody in the ecosystem. Huge challenge. Did we stay on track? I would say as far as customer satisfaction or customer-centric approach goes, and I must appreciate the larger ecosystem, including our dealers. So here, we saw a very collaborative approach because both of us are serving the same customer, whether it is OEMs or the dealers, but they are taking together this collaborative approach, if I say a shared vision, because it will put us in a situation wherein, you are able to understand customers' business better, provide solutions, whether that is in the mining where our tippers operate or in the growing e-commerce segment where the requirements are different every time. It's like an aircraft business. Vehicle has to be on the road all the times. Therefore, service support is of different nature. And finally, to say that there's a good understanding or good connect of sharing this economic and cultural empathy to be in short. So this piece of customer-centric approach has evolved well in these times because all of us are seeing a different module which is coming in terms of engines, therefore the drivetrain, etc. in commercial vehicles. And this momentum, by the way, is going to stay for some time, but we have overcome this challenge. Second part is very critical. In the COVID times, we saw this commercial vehicle industry, largely cars also, I have seen is more of BTL centric, below the line activities, reaching the customer in person, in those NACAs or in the unions and going. We have adopted this digital way of reaching customers. So this is a new ways of reaching customer. And there were those ladies who spoke about the very nicely captured on the hyper-local marketing. I don't think a couple of years back we would have had discussions around a dealer setting up geofencing his or her territory and talking about what specific I'm going to do and capture the propensity model, building it at my dealership and therefore deploying machine learning, what comes from there. A very nice step. And thanks to our large Indian community and the dealers per se, because you adapt very quickly. You are so swift in the change, and it was initiated from various OEMs. For example, we set up the digital platform, and almost 15% of my sales happened digitally. Largely in the beginning, it was assisted, but now it is it's more digital. So digital assisted means you still go in the end and reach and help. And I see much more evolution happening on that place. Secondly, is online sales platform. So we saw largely in the cars, commercial vehicles are adopting and adapting to this way. And I'm so happy that, when I see a lot of our Tata Motor dealers sitting in this room because they got this morning that 50 years award. So they are also listening. So we have this approach of reaching and understanding the needs will solve problems for both of us, and therefore business will become more sustainable and I would say profitable. So that's critical. And also to say in the last, auto dealerships typically, you see whether it's cars or commercial vehicles, these are scalable. And we have seen how we achieve scale over last few months. All I would say is that how do we stay connected? Not only the new ways of connecting, but some of those old soft skills of good engagement must continue. We should not drop them with the changing environment and also adapting to this new ways. This is going to be lethal, and we are going to go for the vision we are setting for ourselves. That's the brief.
Yeah, no, Mr. Kaul, just one thing before I go to Mr. Singh. You talked about BS4 to BS6. That was a big jump. I think for diesel vehicles, that was really
big.
Yeah. So what impact has that had? Because clearly, you've got new technology, SCR, AdBlue, regeneration, all these kind of complicated things. You've got to have the people trained to kind of deal with this technology. Is that still an issue, or is it quite? Right now it's because clearly I think regeneration and all can be an issue at times.
First 7 months, okay. Indian consumers, like I said, like Indian dealers, Indian OEMs, all of us are very swift. Consumers adapted in no time because that was the only option left. Yes, any technology, like I'm saying today also, it's all electronics now. We were talking, somebody did mention about before artificial intelligence, there was a subject on everybody talking about we should scale up, this workshop revenues. And these are all going to be increasing and not increasing, they are going to be multiplying. Because there are no options. Our dealers have invested big time in the workshops because of this BS4 to BS6. It's all through the computer, you're going to diagnose. Then followed by telematics, and large chunk of telematics is going to be also a business driver, but at the same time, let's stay as a prognostics. So there is customers adopting. Customers are really adopting at a much faster pace. And hats off, a lot of learnings are, if we ourselves don't improve on our upgrading skills on how we strike a techno-commercial conversation with them, I think we would be ourselves found wanting. So we'll talk about the upgrading skills little later, but that's behind us. You know why it's behind us? Because India has moved now this April to BS6 phase 2. So there's much more. I mean, particulate matter, hardly anything there. Okay, so...
Yeah, we know about that. Mr. Singh, you've heard Mr. Kaul, clearly good tailwinds behind the CV sector, but of course, again, just touching upon some of the challenges that have been faced, especially in this transition, clearly now behind the sector. It was really a very, very tough period. So just wanted to get your, just looking back, COVID and, what the outlook looks like.
So talking about commercial vehicles, first of all, good evening everyone. Talking about commercial vehicles, particularly in India, I think it's a fallacy to just look at these percentages, how much percentage growth we've taken over previous year and how much over the year that gone by. In terms of the penetration, we are still scratching the surface as far as commercial vehicles is concerned. And the changes that we are seeing around us, I think is going to have a step increase, a step increase in the penetration of commercial vehicles which are there in this country. And I'll tell you three things. One, that more and more with the growing middle class, more and more value-added consumption is happening. So I'll give you an example, right? So when a society consumes wheat, when a society consumes rice, this is moved as bulk commodities, right? In trucks, bigger trucks, this is moved at bulk commodities. But when the society moves in this consumption on the value chain, there is a lot of packaging that takes place. And therefore, there is a lot of air that gets transported, right? That is now happening in India, and therefore the total cubic requirement of transportation that will be required is going to go up tremendously. And that is all will be taken by the commercial vehicles. Second is on the road infrastructure that we are seeing today. It's a revolution that's happening. Again, giving you an example, just take this Delhi Meerut road. Earlier, it used to take 3.5 hours to reach from Delhi to Meerut. Today, people are doing it in 60 minutes. Now just imagine the kind of commodities that now are being able or will be able to be transported from Meerut and even beyond areas to Delhi for the consumption in Delhi, which the growers there, which the milk producers there, which the small scale industry there could never imagine get it in here because of the time, because of the perishability of those things, because of the cost that it used to take. So that road infrastructure which is growing around our cities, that's going to take the commercial vehicle because goods movement is going to increase significantly. Third is on the regulations. Now with these highways, with these expressways coming in, the non-auto part of the carrying of goods, right, or passengers, like these hand rickshaws, like these animal carts, these are simply not allowed on these expressways, and these are going to go out. So who's going to, what's going to transport these goods then? So that is what. So as I'm saying, commercial vehicles, we just seen the, we're just scratching the surface. It's going to see a tremendous increase going forward, and that's on the the overall part of it. Yes, emission norms. What Mr. Kaul said, from BS4 to BS6. It's been a change for everyone, for customers, for OEMs, for dealers particularly because this leads to need for training, especially on the after sale side, because there are more electronics in the vehicle now. The roadside mechanics will not be able to do the repair which wins. So I think that's an opportunity. I will see as an opportunity because vehicles will have to come more to the dealer workshop because it has to be only to be diagnosed through a laptop, through that software. So I think that's a big opportunity that's coming in. Initially, there definitely will be a pain, but it's a big opportunity going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. And, with that opportunity you stated for dealers, I'd like to, get your comments, Sachin, on this. Clearly, you've heard a lot of the other panelists. Good times for dealers. Maybe more needs to be done in customer satisfaction. Some have said, as Tarun said, don't unlearn what you've learned and really, controlling the stock. So, obviously, I think from the dealer community side, it's looking like it's a pretty rosy picture going forward. And clearly, everyone was worried with demand fall off. But I think going into the festive season, demand still looks strong. And, forecasts of about 5% are now close to almost double digits. So everything's still looking good. So I think, I guess no real reason to complain, is there?
Well, I'm still a dealer. So a very good evening to all. I think the pace at which our industry was moving just 10-15 years back from what it is moving in the last decade is very different. Now it's like earlier I remember we used to wait to go to the Auto Expo to see what the next launch is. Now it's like every month you're seeing something happening everywhere. But at the same time, our business also has gone to a lot of transition, especially on our P&L. If you see like just 2-3 years back, pre-COVID, we were at a 0.5 to 1.5 or 2 PAT max, like you see all the CRISIL reports that are put up on the CRISIL website. Now, post-COVID has been good. But what COVID taught us was one beautiful thing, is to retrospect and introspect. We spent that very good time in seeing where we were going wrong. We corrected our costs, we corrected our stocks, we corrected the way we handle our manpower. We did a lot of changes which also paid us up in those bad times that, a lot of dealerships did not shut. That was the super coordination between the brand and the dealers that happened at that time. So I think we should always use that as an asset because it's always going to be a cycle. No good time is permanent, no bad time is permanent. So if stocks start to pile up, like even if it's a 2 or a 3%, if you are saying is a profit on turnover for a dealership, if stocks goes up by 1 month, it is a cost of 1%, which is 30% of the dealer's annual income. So it impacts very huge to the dealer where it comes to the manpower or, opening more outlets, investing in newer technologies because it's really dynamic today. So the only ask is that, there need to be better coordination and decision making based on the profitability on dealerships as to what is viable and what would be viable in future as well at regular intervals between brands. Because most of the brands here have dealer councils, but I still get to hear that around 40% brands do not have active dealer councils running. So I think that is a need of the hour today, where there is a very close interaction with the dealer community, understanding and moving and changing course based on what the market requirement and how the dealer profitability is moving. And we can't forget to say that customer has to be the center of everything. And that is the right balance that both the sides have to strike.
So dealer profitability, I think clearly an issue. I'd like to get the OEM's view on that as well. But just before that, Tarun, I'd just like to, get Mr. Suri in on just one specific topic right now. It is, the IRDA regs have sort of changed. I mean, it's quite a shift in terms of there's just one payment now instead of two. So how do you see that impacting the OEM dealer relationship? And
Good evening, everyone. What I feel that ever since the new regulation has come on the EM, that is expense of management, which is mandatory for all the insurance company, whereby all the companies have been left at their own choice to deal with all sort of line of business within the overall capping of 30%. But what I feel even today also, the pattern of commission has not undergone change because the status of MISP has not changed. So whatever they have been getting, the insurance companies are paying same thing. Whereas, I mean, if you look at, I mean, there's no sort of flexibility as such because the existing system itself is not robust in the sense there are double layers. Now, what they want, I mean, we have a number of discussions with the regulator and all those things. So we are coming with a proposal where they also have expressed their thought also that there will be only single payment because two intermediaries cannot be there now. This is one. Secondly, basically for the ensuring the penetration of insurance and all those things, they want the benefit should ultimately go to the buyer. How it can go? It can only go through the pricing or offering discounts now. So effectively, recently, a proposal has been sent by the GIC Council to the authority, giving some of the suggestions whereby, I mean, it's a sort of going to be open architecture now. In this sense, what they have been thinking that each company should be made free, I mean, insurance company, to deal with the dealers or the OEM, whatever it will be there. And they can target also based upon the volume, sales volume and all those things. But ultimately, there's going to be a sort of market concept, open market concept. Everything will be moved on to Bima Sugam, to online platform. So there won't be any direct dealing with anyone now. I mean, where the intermediary can have his own choice, customer can have his own choice, but insurers cannot have their choice. They can display their prices depending upon their service level, everything. The buyer will be the king in the future to decide all those things. But as far as commission level changes there, I'm feeling that something is going to come very soon as far as dealers and OEMs is there. But they are giving more onus on dealers. That is going to happen. And that is good in the sense if you want to avoid all sort of action by the enforcement agencies and all this to bring the discipline in the market. This is the only way, This should be, good for everyone.
Right. Just before I go to the next one, would anyone like to comment on what Mr. Suri said, just the impact of the, RDA regulations? I mean, obviously good for the consumer, tilted towards the dealer. Any comments, Tarun?
Look, it's very clear that everything has to be in the interest of the customer. That is the most important thing. So we should all know what is right, what is optimum. As long as we do the right thing, then everything falls into place. The problem happens when we become slightly more ambitious, if I may say. That is where the problem is. Yes. So as long as we are all doing a fair job, there is no problem at all. So as simple as that. So I think it's a very, very, very welcome step. And like you said, it's all about transparency, fairness, and the right price to the customer. Yeah.
But one more thing is they are going to rationalize the percent of discount offered by the insurance company to dealers also now. Because they want maximum, it should be rational in the way the benefit should go to the customer.
Absolutely.
And with you on this. Company will not be tempted to give higher discount and having thin margin. Those days are gone now.
Sachin, would you like to add to that?
Well, in the last few years, insurance has become a big part of every dealer's P&L, and any change to that, as drastic as what happened last time, affects our entire working in a very big way. So now it's more transparent, and it is going to help dealers. But again, capping those premiums is going to affect our bottom lines in some or the other way.
And just turning to that dealer profitability, bottom line, Tarun, things are good. Dealers, should they be investing more, or sometimes are you asking them to invest too much? I mean, for example, the CIs, they keep changing all the time. Should there be some sort of, period given, because that's a huge cost. So just wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, digitization also, investing in digital. clearly that is the way forward. Is there enough being done? So just wanted to get, going forward, because clearly these are good times. I mean, this is the time one should be really investing, but sometimes, would they be pushed to over-invest as well?
I think you raised some very, very important issues, and I think the most important thing is that the trust between the OEM and the dealer and a win-win approach. I think that is absolutely critical. It's not a zero-sum game that I win and you lose. Can you together create value? I think as businesses, every business's prime role is, of course, one, to make the customer happy, and number two is to earn profit. I think as long as both of us understand each other, there is no problem. That is point number one. Point number two is there that there are a lot of opportunities. Very clearly you see in this new India, the customer has evolved. I mean, the customer is no more the same that who was only looking at buying the base variant and, or buying a bare car, okay, and maybe getting the service outside. Today you see the service retention has really improved. And of course, with the technologies, it has ensured that dealers are getting a very healthy business going forward. Brar talked about extended warranties. The penetration of extended warranties has gone up to as high as 50–60%. I think it's up to the OEMs to see that they educate the dealers about all the opportunities which are existing, so that we don't have to do anything silly or anything short term. I think my only request to all the dealer partners here is that there is enough value to be had in the system. And what we expect from dealers is three things. One, customer has to be happy. Number two, the compliance, no compromise on compliance. And number three, financial discipline. As far as we are concerned, I can say with a lot of pride that more than 75% of the new opportunities are being given to the existing dealers. We do not want too many new dealers. We are very happy with the existing dealers. They have been with us, they are growing with us, we want to grow with them. And once they grow with us, I think that is where everything remains together and you can really have a better trust and you can grow together. That I think is absolutely critical going forward, that you don't spread thin. You really consolidate and look at each other in creating value. And when I say create value, again, what are the inefficiencies in the system? Can we create inquiries into retail at a better cost? Today we had a presentation from Meta. I believe Deepti and Google team is again waiting to make their presentation. So how together we can really look at this new customer who is willing to give us opportunity to reach them at a lower cost. Inventories we have already talked about. Are there unnecessary inventories in the system in the quest for unnecessary volume or a market share? Similarly, from a dealer point of view, unnecessarily discounting is happening, which is not healthy. So we have to look at sustainable long-term opportunities. He mentioned about dealer councils. I think we have moved a long way. Today, we don't have to wait for a dealer council meeting to really raise our issues. Because technology has made it so simple, everybody is so accessible, we have to be much faster. I think it's up to us to take much faster, proactive decisions and not be really reactive or do a post-mortem. Nobody has the time for it, and things get lost at a much faster pace. So we have to be very, very smart, we have to be very, very fast, and as long as trust is there, trust means how can OEM objectives and dealer objectives be different? I mean, it's as simple as that. It could be a perspective issue, it could be maybe a short-term or mid-term issue. However, I mean, ultimately, we have to together exist and create value. So I would say dealer profitability is extremely important. Win-win is extremely important. We, in fact, go to as much as really guiding the dealers or, oh, your cost here is high. Can you bring it down? This is the opportunity you're missing. Your sales to service ratio should be 1:10. Maybe you're having only 1:7. Do you need more workshops? Or maybe you are not really utilizing the service potential to that extent. Are you not doing your second-hand business very well? Are you losing out on this? I think it's all about really, really making sure that you get all the opportunities. And again, I'll go back to trust, trust, trust. If trust is there, I think everything else can really, really follow. Yeah.
Thank you, Tarun. I think you've set a kind of context for, what an ideal dealer OEM long-term partnership should be, win-win on trust. And, with that context, I just like everyone's remarks on this. Hardeep, I'm sure there must be something you'd like to add to, but clearly, I think, win-win, the most important factor, because then there's a third win, which is the consumer as well. So that's just ideal. But obviously, I'm sure there are a lot of, how do I say, I wouldn't say conflict, but there are different perspectives. So how do you manage that, with the dealer community? Because sometimes the objectives can be short-term, long-term, and they aren't always entirely in sync with each other.
So Tarun spoke about trust, and I think we can build trust through communication. So I think having a very consistent communication with the dealer partners is very critical. So to give you example, like Tarun mentioned, we don't have a dealer council, frankly, but the number of interactions we have with the dealer groups. So we have something called a product clinic. I've worked with quite a few organizations. I haven't seen any organization which showcases the product a year in advance and then 6 months prior to a set of dealer partners and ask them, how does it look like? A lot of organizations do a consumer clinic to understand what consumer likes, but I don't know, at least in the past organizations I've worked, I haven't seen a new product being showcased at the concept stage and asked, how does the design look like? How does this material look like? Do you want to make changes here or there? So, that is number one. Besides that, when there is a transition from an old model to new model, how do you really transition into the new one? What are the different tactics which are required? Or, even the smaller issues like, selling the EVs. So we have different set of dealers and it is dynamic. So sometimes some of the dealers who are not part of the dealer council for a very long time, they feel alienated. That why I'm not being asked while I'm a small dealer, but I should be asked. And we make sure that it is not only the big dealers, it's dealers from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, even the smaller dealers, because the requirements are different and the consumers are very different. So you need to listen to the entire universe, and also sometimes dealers are not available, the set of dealers that you want to interact with. So this gives, so in a year we are able to interact, we have about 140 dealers. We are able to interact with about 70 dealers, which you will not be able to do. Otherwise, you will keep going back to the same set of 20 dealers which are there, and others will, they are not heard. So I think Tarun spoke about trust. I think communication is the key. The more you communicate, the more you understand, and more you communicate with each other, that's how you can take things forward in a better way.
Thanks, Hardeep. Nal, you've heard both Tarun and Hardeep, I think clearly. But sure, go ahead.
Something? I mean, though it's related to you people, what even I feel, the more responsibility will be on the dealer in the sense now dealers have to bridge the gap through proper effective communication. This is one. And obviously with coordination with the OEM, with the aggregator, or with the way the technological development is happening. You can't hold the stocks also. Day in, day out, things are changing. And customer will be the right person to guide. So before launching or before, for launching any your new product, this has to be collectively be decided by all the stakeholders. It's not that, dealer is thinking that this, he got the dealership, dealers want hand-holding in terms of getting the education on the technology or on the online, whatever it is changing is there. Because time is coming where the millennium will, will be dominating on all the sales of your cars.
Thank you, Suri. Yeah, Nal, I think clearly it is, what's clear is dealer interface is super important. That's the only interface the brand has with the customer. Tomorrow Velu can make the best product, the best engines, but one service advisor can just blow everything away and just spoil the whole experience for the brand. So again, just getting your thoughts on this. And Hardeep plays a good point where they involve the dealers even into I would say product development, but to get feedback on the product, not just consumer clinics, because in the end, the dealers have to sell the cars. They know the customers better. So really, I think what we're hearing is a lot more, let's say, trust, a lot more bonding. I think much more closer working than ever before for, let's say, creating this win-win situation.
So a few things, and I'll echo a lot of what the panelists talked about. We used to be on a quarterly dealer council model to that extent. Recently, we've now moved to a monthly model. We've broken it up into much more task-oriented groups. It's more virtual. We still meet them regularly physically, but really we've started to kind of break it up into groups so that we get to hear the voice of all of them to that extent, and they're very task-oriented because we can't wait for a whole quarter for us to make decisions, right? So that's one piece we have changed. Second, we are starting to do is we actually are going to the dealers. We just had our North dealership meet where we're meeting all the dealers and not just the dealer council to the extent. That gets to be an important step as well. Last piece of it, and this is something we are increasingly doing, is co-creating. And when I say co-creating, part of it is the design piece of it, which the panelists talk about, co-creating new products and working with them, but also co-creating the go-to-market for customers. The whole digital go-to-market we are doing is primarily co-created today. The central content comes from us, but really the last mile digital marketing, everything is co-created with that specific dealership for that specific market as well, right? So I think moving away from it being a directive from the OEM and say, this is how we want to do it, but to say that this is where we think the guidelines are, but let's co-create what makes sense for you in the market. It's a very important step. That's where we're heading towards.
Right. So I'll just jump to Sachin. You've heard, I just wanted to ask you, things like digital marketing. Do you think you need support on that? Again, the whole issue of CI, is it being done too frequently, the changes? So just to get your sense, you've heard, some of the PV dealers. Just want to understand, do you expect more support? I mean, is enough being done? So just to get your thoughts.
On the CI point of view, I think we had this in the last year as well that, the names of dealers are still very small on the boards. So I think that the dealer itself is also a brand in his own town. We saw today we had 60 plus dealers having a legacy of 50, 70, 80 years in their own towns. So I think that that is one thing that dealers do always tell us that, lot of signages of brands have no dealer name or very small dealer names on them. Second is the CIs should be planned in such a way that at least it has a life of 7 years to change. Many a times we see that CI is changing or a lot of internal things changing in 2 years, 3 years, which is a cost, to the dealership, and if planned better, it can be used for a longer time. So it will just take some more planning and an effective implementation in doing it. And another very important thing that you touched, as I had the Gen X vertical in FADA, and lot of the new youngsters come in and, they tell us one very important thing is that, we can't control any selling price in our business. So, what is the innovation that we do to increase our revenues and profits? And a big shout out comes out from digital, whether it's digital marketing, your digital tools, digitizing your processes. So a lot to be done on that. And now that we are moving towards hyper-local, it is very important, like Nal said, that, at a ground level, there is a discussion with dealers, which most brands have started now with, you see, online sales AI and a lot of other things where, there may be some activity happening in a village. So you want to advertise that and connect yourself with that because that is your customer. You're reaching to his palm now. It's no more the TV or it's no more a newspaper. It's his hands and it is on that second. If you lost that second of him watching the Facebook, you lost him. So I think it's more and more important that there is an interaction at the lowest level of the dealership from the brands, and that's how the digital marketing is planned because it evolves from hyperlocal.
Just very quickly, Tarun, I need to jump to Mr. Singh and Mr. Kaul, but just want you to respond to that. Sometimes what he says, the dealer is a brand in itself, so needs some support on the digital side because that really is the need of the hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I fully agree, and I think dealer is playing a very important role. Either which way, and even if some new strategies like D2C is being tested, there also I think the dealer's role has not been undermined at all. Like we trusted the D2C model with the Ioniq 5. But very clearly, the roles of the OEM and the dealer were defined, and a good margin, etc., etc. So my point is, dealer's role is very important. Yes, CI 7 years, 5 years, 3 years. I don't think anybody knows what is the right thing. Things are, at the same time, I'd only like to say, on one hand, we are saying things are changing at such a fast pace. As long as we understand that, yes, dealer's profit is being taken care of, and we feel that, yes, this is the right thing to do, I think we don't need to wait for 7 years to do it. So that is most important because things are no more the same what they used to be. And CI is definitely very important. And you would know that a showroom without the right CI, I mean, is nothing. So I think everything has an importance, but the important thing like what Brar mentioned and what I mentioned and what other panelists have mentioned, important thing is communication, right communication, understanding, and then moving it together. Yeah.
Right. Mr. Kaul, I'd like to turn to you. You've heard everyone, I think, on a lot of topics. So I just wanted your, not being anything specific, but clearly on this whole thing on trust, really issues on, not issues, but profitability is still very important. Support from the OEMs in certain areas as well, which impact profitability. But, Mr. Garg said, Tarun said that they are very profitable now. So that also is something to be
Thank you, Hormazd. So what are we trying to address? Dealer profitability. One, happy customer, therefore making sure that services are done, perhaps at their doorstep. That's applicable for commercial vehicles. I don't know about the cars. Well, you these days pick up cars also from home. So dealership profitability is extremely critical. We all know, we have said in many forums. But what is more critical in a product like ours, which is commercial vehicles, which are capital intensive, okay? Not just capital intensive, they are also, industry is cyclical in nature. You fire 3 years good, and then you are dropped by about 30–40% till the time you pick up again for next 2 years. So in these trying times, and having gone through COVID, some learnings, and thereafter we have been facing good tailwinds and therefore good riding the wave. So we have to minimize wasteful costs. That's critical. I mean, that's for every dealership. Therefore, we talk about less stocks, therefore low cost of inventories, not venturing out too much across and investing your short-term monies into something else and therefore getting into trouble. And then there was a mention of trust. See, for us, trust is sacrosanct. It's hygiene, it's very basic. I mean, it's for Tatas. For us, therefore, you see, I mean, large bunch of 60 years, 70 years dealerships, hardly any, I would say, exit from the business, unless, yes, there are some cases when people venture out. I think we got to be very conscious of what are the opportunities ahead in terms of changing customer needs, changing market trends, everybody investing in technology upgradations, everybody investing in technology change in products and processes, and go-to-market model is changing. Therefore, what are we going to do? We have to address adapting to the new ways of reaching customers. Communication is sacrosanct. That's hygiene, again, like trust. If you lose communication, I remember many years back, one of the dealers I started my career with, he told me the moment you think that you have, now that you've sold many and customers will reach your dealership, sorry, there are many in between from his place to your dealership. Somebody else will take them away, and rightly so. So you can't take it for granted. Enough that has been said in the past, but I want us to be seized of the fact that India is changing big time on technology. Our customers are much smarter than many of us around, because therefore we got to keep your eyes and ears on the ground. What is the adoption happening? I'm talking commercial vehicles for a moment. Okay, and that's happening much faster. You said BS4 to BS6, that has been absorbed. That has sunk into the system. However, new ways of fleet management solutions, telematics as a service and as a business. Data is big ticket. And what our data can offer in long term as a business, you got to study a few models in the developed markets. For example, in North America, how other businesses, just then the sales and not a mere service that my job cards and workshop revenue, etc., that's hygiene, that will also go up, because electronics is more, business is only going to grow and only going to come to you. Job cards are only going to multiply. But can you see in these cyclical in nature when you have a business, what are the other avenues you are going to capture? Therefore, value-added services. How you geofence, fleet management solution, annual maintenance contract. How you are going to give the uptime guarantees to the customers, and therefore your ability to reach within 4 hours is my product. For example, we talk about Tata Alert, okay, on a highway or in a mine. So many differentiators. Now exchange, scrappage factory, scrappage policy is in place, and we have started this scrappage franchisee model. And that's a big business. So if we are not seized of the fact that how do we help in the circular economy, how many parts from the vehicle will be reused, and that as a business. So this business provides multiple business opportunities, and are we in it, or we are going to watch from a distance? We got to be part of it, and rest is all sacrosanct. Monies will keep on pouring in. India is big, we all know. And I'll just give you one data point. When sometimes back, we used to have just 2-axle truck or a 6-wheeler. Then it moved to 10. Currently, the highest TIV is in the higher tonnage nodes. So in billion-ton kilometers, if one wants to calculate, it's a commercial vehicle terminology. India is multiplied in last 1 decade. And it's poised to do much more, because if you see employment generation through a small vehicles, what we have is ACE, and many competitors have a similar, and how that transforms the employment opportunity and therefore the growth avenues for the consumers, we have to watch. I mean, we want to be part of it. Yes, most of our dealers are, and larger ecosystem should be. And yes, for us to remain long-term in the business, shortcuts won't help. It doesn't help. It won't help. It hasn't helped anyone. And if at all it helps, it's a very short term, and that gets exposed in no time. So business is big, and we all should participate in meaningfully. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Kaul. Mr. Singh, I think we are running out of time, so going to give you the last, word on this. I think, again, just taking from what everyone said, but just looking at it a little bit from the dealer point of view or the dealer community point of view. You've heard of, things like CI being changed a lot. Even things like oils, lubricants, tires, all having to be purchased from the OEM or the prescribed vendor, which isn't really a practice. But some of the OEMs do this. Just to understand, you've heard what Sachin has said. So clearly, just to end, to make this relationship more robust, obviously times are good right now, but again, as Mr. Kaul said, in your business is very, very cyclical. You're up a couple of years and then down for a long period. So just to ensure the kind of stability and the kind of longevity with the kind of franchise partner, I mean, obviously a lot is being done. So just wanted your, kind of remarks on that.
So I'll take the most important point, I think, which would affect each one of us in the room, is on the profitability, right? And then, because that's linked to so many other things. Now, in the complete chain that is there, OEMs and dealers are like partners, and they are partners, not like partners, they are partners. So therefore, it is the responsibility of both of us to drive the cost efficiencies in the chain to bring the profitability. And I think one of the biggest tools which is there in front of us these times is digital. If I were to tell you that the showroom space that you require would be just 10% what you have currently, and the manpower, sales manpower that you have, just 10% it would be required, what would happen to the profitability, right? It's definitely going to shoot up. Now, with the digital coming in, with the virtual reality making so much progress, right, there won't be, and mark my words, this is going to be the biggest disruption in distribution of automobiles, digital. There will be not a need of such big showrooms. You can easily take a customer through virtual reality, show him any color, any variant, top end, bottom end, open the door for him, and 90% of questions today which are asked by customer can be answered by bots, right? You don't need salesmen for that. Yes, there is an emotional touch that will bring in, there is a closing of sale that will happen for that, but only 20% of manpower actually will be needed. So I think that is something which will drive our profitability, our efficiency going forward, and we have to take a lead in this. And if I see this room in automobile side, I think the average age, including myself, is too high, right? we have to please get your next gen in here. If I have to think like Hyperlocal came, and when I were to check it, I went to my daughter and asked her, right? Those are the guys, the young people who will really tell you how this digital is going to be implemented. And those who will take a lead in this will be the early adopters, will definitely benefit a lot from this. Even CI, we talked about CI, right? Now we've seen all these billboards in the stadium, right? You can change it every 5 minutes. LED costs have come down so much, why not have an LED there and let CIBV change every month? What's the big deal, right? So this is what is going to really drive us going forward, and I think we have been auto industry as we've been bit of laggards here as far as digital is concerned. We have to pick up both OEMs, and I'm taking the blame on myself and OEMs also. It's both sides. So we have to unlearn. So my colleague said, yes, we should not unlearn last 2 years, but I think we have to unlearn last 30 years, 40 years of our experience and move forward on this.
No, thanks very much. I think you ended it on a note of really, I think the way forward, one has to evolve, have to be faster, nimbler. I think digital is the way forward. It's not necessarily the traditional way of doing business with large showrooms, a lot of manpower. I think clearly that does present a lot of opportunities. But I think clearly just looking right immediately forward, I think touchwood, the market's looking good. Demand is still robust, and I think everyone's poised for a win-win-win end of the year. So thanks very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your time, and thank you, FADA, for giving me this opportunity.
Can I request all of you to please stay with us on stage for a round of felicitations? I'm going to request Mr. Sachin Mahajan and Mr. Shah to please come up on stage to felicitate Mr. Amandeep Singh. Can we please have the mementos? I hope you all enjoyed this panel discussion. I'm going to request Mr. Harish Suri to please join us on stage to felicitate Mr. Gaurav Gupta. Ms. Garima Mishra, can you please join us on stage to felicitate Mr. H.O. Suri? I'm sorry, there seems to be some confusion about name. Ms. Garima Mishra is here. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ashish Phamba, can you please join us, sir, on stage to felicitate Mr. Hardeep Singh Brar? Mr. Vivek Garg, can you please come up on stage, sir, and join us to felicitate Mr. Nalinikanth Gollagunta? After this, I'm going to request Mr. Ankit Raj to please come with us on the stage to felicitate Mr. Rajesh Kaul. Mr. Ankit Raj? Mr. Rishabh Sanghi, can you please join us? To felicitate Mr. Tarun Garg. Mr. Singhania, can you please come up? Mr. Sai Giridhar also, can you Mr. Singhania, can you please give the memento to Mr. Rajesh Kaul? Mr. Sai Giridhar? Okay, Mr. Singhania will felicitate Mr. Sachin Shah as well. And Mr. Ashish Pandey, can I please request you to come up on stage to felicitate Mr. Hormazd Sorabjee? And then we'll all can have a group photograph. Okay, all right.